Once we've done that, I will start frying my meat instantly. I can chippity choppity with my onion. You will also do that
with your meat though, don't you? Oh, you get.
Yeah, but I can just like forget about it.
So happy for you. I
start with my
aubergine. Aubergine first.
Oh, so you're not starting with onion with me?
No. Embarrassing.
How funny. Funny, ha ha.
Funny, ha ha.
Hello, princess.
We just have peas on the side. Are we going to serve this up?
I don't know.
Really low?
It should be like, I'll tell you, don't worry, man. I'll tell you.
I mean, technically, the potato's cooked.
Roz, should we just take a bit more time to cook our meat sauce and then grill it?
And just get like dark lines on top, done.
Good. So we're live on the video now. That's good.
See how you go on time. If you can get into a hot oven, show them with a hot oven.
Just before
and then if we need to just whack the heat up, I'll tell you if I
Make
want
sure it's the other way around.
I think that's quite high up. Oh no, it's fairly high.
Look,
Oh.
if you get everything done.
Welcome to day 11 of Cook for Victory. My name is Maddie.
And my name is Millie, and tonight we are cooking at Cookery School at Little Portland Street.
And if you haven't been listening, or tonight is your first night, I say that, I have been a pastry chef for over 10 years in Australia, which is terrifying, and have done my last 3 years teaching as a teacher here at Cookery School.
I'm from London. I did my professional training here, and before that was a private chef in Tuscany.
But after all that, we're here teaching you how to use very simple, very delicious, easy to come by ingredients and make delicious meals. We call them crowd pleasers, and probably tonight is one of the
Crowd pleaser, yes.
right cloud.
What
are we cooking tonight, Millie?
So we are making a delicious shepherd's pie. So taking the idea of a stew, but also recapping what we've already done, lovely bolognese. But we're going to top it with some nice mashed potato, show you how to make that, and then into the oven just for a final little golden up, make sure it's lovely and crispy, and then we'll have it with some peas.
Yes, some fresh peas, or steamed peas. So we're starting with our potatoes first, because we want to kind of just forget about them a little bit. We've just got some nice old white potatoes. We're going to peel them, chop them into roughly the same size pieces. These kind of size potatoes can stay that size, because we are going to be able to cook them for quite a while. But the bigger ones, like these babies, we'll probably chop in half to match, because we kind of want them to cook at the same rate. So you wouldn't use new potatoes, because one, they're not good for mashing. You want old or like mashable potatoes.
Anything really starchy, they'll usually be labelled as like Maris Piper, good for mashing, boiling, frying, roasting, King Edwards, for example. But you don't want to use salad potatoes or new potatoes, even though they taste very good. They'll just make a very waxy, sticky, starchy mess. So we're going to peel our potatoes to start with. Then we're going to pop them in some cold water, get them on boiling, and then we can just forget about them until we're ready to return to them after our shepherd's pie has finished cooking.
And so tonight, as we did with the bolognese, I'm doing a vegetable version or a vegetarian version. We've got a few varieties, and Mill's using some lamb mince.
I am, yes. So as opposed to cottage pie, which is made with beef, we're making shepherd's pie tonight. So we're going to be using nice fatty lamb, but we've been using beef for our bolognese. So just a nice little change up.
Yeah, a little bit of a difference in flavour, and plus we get to say shepherd's pie instead of cottage pie. That's always fun. Are you trying to race me?
Speed. I am quicker than you.
I also have way more potatoes. But it's not a race.
That's funny. I thought you also had 750.
Yeah, but I've got more. You've got 5 big ones. I've got 1,000 small ones.
So if you can find the big ones, much easier to peel, to be honest.
Saves
yourself a bit of time. And if you're not in a rush and you just have like 5 big ones, you don't even have to chop them up. They'll just take a little bit longer to cook.
Yeah. For us, we're doing them first just so that we can forget about them. If you are in a rush, you can always cut them quite small just to make them cook quicker.
Ideally on the bigger side though, just because they can tend to absorb a lot of water instead of delicious milk or cream or butter that we're going to be adding later. So if you have the time, cut them nice and big. Right, that's my taters. So I prefer to make a mess on my chopping board, and Maddie's being very, very neat.
If you've got, actually these potatoes are all pretty nice. I will say like almost perfect. It rarely happens. But if you've got little black marks or pocks or eyes, I will say 80, 90, almost 100% of peelers will have a little dig out. And so they're literally just to get out anything that you don't want from your potato. I just drop my potato in.
So I've got a couple of little ones. These ones are all roughly the same size. So I'm going to leave these as my guide size. So all of these can just go half across the middle, and then they can go straight in their pot of water. So if you want, you can do sort of arching your fingers, or you can just do hand on top of the blade. Potatoes can be a bit sticky, so try to avoid just wiping them off. So that's all my weirdly even sized potatoes.
Yeah, I know, they look so perfect. Never have we had these beautiful, beautiful potatoes. I'm doing the same thing as Mill. I'm just going to chop my bigger ones in half. I've only got 2. And so we're going cold water for potatoes because they grow underground. So if we're actually with our peas later on, they grow above the ground, they're fresh, they're green. To keep them green, we'll use boiling water. For potatoes and any other root vegetables, nice cold water to start with.
And fully covered, they need to have lots of water for their long cooking time. So I'm going to pop this on our back burner, and they can just tick over in the meantime while our sauce is on the way.
Depending on what you're doing, if you're doing the vegetarian version, shock horror, we are not starting with onions, we're actually starting with our aubergine first. If you're doing the lamb version with mill, you're starting with your meat. Either way, it's that same thing that we do all the time to get lots of color, lots of flavor. We are putting it on a high heat with a bit of oil and just forgetting about it until there's plenty of color, whether it's aubergine or whether it is your lamb mince. So for Millie, I'm gonna get them both started. We've got some beautiful lamb mince here. Mill's gonna get her oil.
That I am. Right, so a little bit of olive oil to just help our meat brown, but it will also release additional fat as it cooks. And I'm just gonna add a very, very little pinch of salt just to help any of that water that is in the meat to come out. So we are starting our potatoes, bringing them up to a boil. So they started from cold, just to help them cook a bit more evenly. But now we're going to bring them up to a boil, and once they are boiling, I'll just drop them down to like a medium...
Happy simmer.
So, yeah, happy simmer. Not barely bubbling, so that will take forever, but enough heat
to get
they are going to get cooking. So I'm going to turn my hob on, and in the meantime, Maddie's going to start chopping.
Yes, I kind of topped and tailed my aubergine, and then because it's quite long, and I know I'm not comfortable cutting through that with my knife, I chopped it in half. And then, very similar to what I did with the veggie bolognese, I'm trying to create little battens that will look something like this. I don't know what that is. Something like this. And then I'm going to cut this way. So that will create little sticks, and then cross again, and we've got little cubes. So the smaller these are, the more they kind of replicate mince, which is what we're aiming for. That's why we're cutting them so small. These should be little, like very, very small bite-sized pieces. Welcome back to Jeffrey, our best friend.
So I am going to start by finely dicing my onions. So I'll cut off the top. Give myself my nice flat base. Chop through. And
so begins the steam.
It's about to get, hot and sweaty in here.
Hot and sweaty in here.
So just breaking down to the final layer that looks nice. But I'm always keeping the root on for when I dice. So we've got my friend Jeffrey here. If you haven't met him already, he's just our friendly emotional support plastic card, there for all our needs and wants.
Safety reasons and
stop you
to
from
bring us
scraping,
joy.
scraping your fingers along your knife, also to keep you from scraping plastic off your chopping board. My least favourite noise in the kitchen is this. Scrapes plastic off your board. It's a horrible noise, so we use Jeffrey.
If you're making a mess like me and you've lost control of your aubergine, it can help you out, pick it all up, gather it together.
So I just had an extra little bit of dryness, so I just chopped that off. So we're going to go for a nice fine dice. So as many little lines as you can do, about 3/4 of the way through the onion, dragging your tip of the knife back, keeping everything very tightly tucked, and then going the other way around. Okay, lovely fine dice. Once it starts to rock, just going to push it onto a flat corner, flat edge rather, and chop around it.
And I have, if I do say so myself, done a decent job of chopping this aubergine into small cubes.
I'll tip this into your bowl.
So we're starting the aubergine the same way we start our onions. They can soak up a decent amount of oil, but still cold aubergine, cold oil, cold pan, pinch of salt, and then we are going to get it going. I'm going to
Swapsies.
with you.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick recap on where we are. So if I flip this over, it's barely even browning. So I'll give it one flip, let it settle, and then I'm going to move mine to the side so we can see what Maddie's doing. There you go.
We've got a good amount of oil to start, depending on how many veggies you're doing. There's optional, if desired, if you have. You might need a touch more oil. I'm going to give that just a light drizzle and a good pinch of salt to start. Good pinch? Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Because a lot of the vegetables don't have that same kind of umami flavour that the meat does, so I usually find by the end we're adding a decent amount of salt. So you can add a little bit in at the start, and same thing, golden brown, water dropping out, should be soft, tender and translucent, i.e. it's quite a while away. It's going to be on nice and high. Next up in the mass of vegetables that we're cutting is mushrooms. I'm going to chop them all small-ish. And then I'm just going to get a really big knife and just run it over and do that pizza cut. I think mushrooms are round enough that they're a bit of a pain to get into battens, like we did with our aubergine and like we will do with our carrots and everything.
Yeah, I'm going to start peeling my carrots. We've also got some celery here, some garlic, some thyme, and some parsley to chop through. So I'm going to give Maddie a hand once I've done all my veggies.
And I will start the mushroom march.
And once again, we're going for as fine as we can.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in half, just so it's a little bit easier for me. I don't want to be working massive lengths of anything, so this one I'll go into 3s, for example, just so I'm not chopping anything that's much longer than my knife. Having a look at Maddie's, it's very, very dry on the bottom of the pan, so I'm going to add a little bit more oil at this point. And considering we're at the start and we definitely are looking very dry,
Yeah, we'll
it
need
needs
plenty
a little
more
splash.
oil. Particularly the mushrooms are going to use more oil as well. They're like a little
So maybe
sponge.
another tablespoon or 2. My lamb, if we have a look over here, starting to release a lot of water, which is great, but it just needs a bit of time to cook that off before it can begin to brown.
Both of these recipes are very simple in ingredients. You'll see we don't add a lot of stuff.
I've not even got stock in mine.
You don't even have stock in yours. I've just got the stock powder and a few herbs. So the flavour is coming from what we do to the onions, the vegetables and everything like that. So that caramel colour is really quite important in this one.
Especially when you're making stews and things, you want to really take time to brown your meats. If you don't, you're going to get a very pale looking stew, which is never quite as inviting. So yeah, definitely worth taking
Never
your
as
time.
flavoursome.
So compared to bolognese, which we did, which is very, very similar to this,
Yeah, just more.
that has colour from tomatoes, so you could almost get away with it. It won't ever taste as nice, but this one has no tomatoes to hide behind, so you have to really, really take that time to make sure they're lovely and brown.
I'm just being careful to keep my hand on top of the knife, and I'm kind of just going nuts. They will eventually break down a little bit more, but for now I'm just trying to get them, we're trying to get it to replicate mincemeat or something really, really small. So I'm just going back and forth, and then I'll use my Jeffrey to bring all the bigger bits back to the top before I lose control of my mushrooms.
So Maddie definitely needs a little more oil. It's getting very squeaky and dry in the pot. So I'm going to add a little bit. It will absorb a lot of it and then kind of spit it back out again once it's...
Eventually it will release water and it will stop needing oil.
You do have
eventually.
a pinch of salt to yours.
I did. I had a good pinch of salt.
Aubergine aren't quite as moist as mushrooms anyway,
Yeah.
so... Oh yeah, it's starting to release it again now. And we're getting a couple of very, very caramelised bits, which is perfect. Over with mine, it's starting to sound a little bit less wet and bubbly, which is good. It means the water is boiling off, but it's still very, very pale and grey. So I really want to take that time to keep on browning it, even if it looks like it's on its way. Your favourite way of chopping mushrooms. So from my planks, I've now got into little matchsticks. I can just chop into
From
really, really
planks
small
to
things.
matchsticks to tiny, tiny
If
dice.
you missed our bolognese recipe, we want this very, very fine so it cooks nice and quick. The meat will actually be done way before any of our carrots and celery are done. So,
I think
here,
the
boiling.
potatoes are calling.
they are at like a really vigorous boil, so they look a little bit like a pot of pasta. So big, big glassy bubbles breaking the surface. So I've just turned it down so it doesn't boil over.
So we can continue to forget about them.
And when you are making mash at home, it needs to be as soft as possible. So we're going to go for not any resistance when I cut through it with a knife. So to be honest, you can go a little bit longer than you think.
It's only going to make it easier for yourself. Yeah. If you take it off early and your potatoes are hard, it's just harder to mash at the end. So don't be shy on the cooking time for the potatoes.
As I go, I'm just breaking up any big, big crumbles of meat. Ooh, this is cool. Right, your aubergine are looking quite beautiful.
Okay, I'm almost ready with my mushrooms. After
Do you want me to start?
the aubergine's got to come out.
Oh yeah, sorry. Right you are.
We're kind of doing this in stages today, a little bit different to the veggie bolognese. So it will say once your aubergine is ready, which I can see mine is very, very close from here, but I'm going to come over and have a look. We're going to take it out and then we're going to do the mushrooms separately just to kind of speed up that cooking time.
And my meat is starting to sizzle and hiss a little bit, so it's starting to fry, which is great. Just going to trim my celery and then I'm going to start to finely chop that as well.
In terms of colour, the majority have a nice golden side to it. I know it's going to cook a little bit more later on. In terms of colour and translucency, I'm pretty happy with that for my aubergine, and I want to get to the same stage with my mushrooms as well. So I'm going to take this out and pop it in a bowl just on the side, and then I'm going to put my mushrooms in, do that same thing, big slug of oil, big pinch of salt, and on a nice high heat.
I'll just pop them on the bottom please.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm trying to line up my little matchstick to my celery just so I can chop as many as possible at the same time. It's a little bit quicker, saves you some time in the long run.
The old swapsiroo. And that excess oil from the aubergine is going to be great for the mushrooms.
Could you show my...
I can.
Sorry. It's a little bit spitty.
It smells great.
The smell of browning meat is pretty delicious.
So in terms of colour and flavour...
Oh yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm
nearly
trying to
there.
get wade through the steam. There's a few little crispy bits there. That is what we want kind of pretty much everywhere. So, rest of the aubergines out. Your meat is attacking me.
Oh, sorry. It does like to do that.
And mushrooms in, completely upside down. As well, you can go a good pinch of salt and a little bit of olive oil just to give them a good toss and coat.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, ma'am. And again, that nice high heat. They might even need a little bit more oil. They're already squeaking. Mushrooms are notorious for making a squeaky noise when they don't have enough oil. So let's see. No, not too bad. They're going to make it.
I'm going to have a little investigate with mine. It's starting to get very, very caramelized on the bottom, which is great. Like a nice golden brown color. Say like about 50% of ours is quite brown at this point. So I'm going to give it another minute or two. Then we're going to fish it out and start browning my onions.
And for me, our next stage is the garlic. So I'm going to do a little bit of preparation for myself. I'm going to mince my garlic with the mincer, and I'm just going to keep it on the side of my board because we're not going to add our garlic in right until the mushrooms are very, very ready. So they're going to be golden brown, they'll have no water on them, and they'll have dried up as well. They look like mushroom soup at the moment. So if you haven't done your garlic before with us, the first thing you're going to do is make your life easy, and you're going to crush it. We use Jeffrey. You can use the flat of your knife. If you've got a mincer, use a mincer.
So I'm also doing my garlic at the same time because we're doing basically the exact same recipe. So I've got a little pile of carrot, celery, garlic. Back to you, sorry.
Crush your garlic. Even if you don't have a mincer, this is going to do 90 of the work for you. If you've got kids, it's a great job for them because they can beat the hell out of it, and there's nothing you can do that's going to go too much for your garlic, particularly if you're crushing it. So let them go to town.
I just want to say at this point, I've had people ask me, oh, Millie, is it burnt? It's not burnt,
It's not
it is
burnt.
beautifully caramelized. You can smell when things burn very, very easily. It's a very distinctive smell. This is just like lovely and caramelized, so
That
anyone
is just
telling me it's burnt.
extra
We've got lovely
flavour.
brown crumbles. I actually think we're just about there. And the bottom is looking very, very well caramelized, but not burnt either. If I just move this around, it's literally like the color of caramel, which is perfect. That's going to translate to really, really good flavor later on. So, okay, 1 more minute. Because I stressed that point about taking the time.
One more pinch of salt. It's the 1 more minute on your meat. So
Yeah,
I've just
stress
got my
taking the
garlic
time.
ready for whatever my mushrooms. take a bit of colour.
beginning to release all their water, and the pan is beginning to dry, and I can already hear that the sound in like the last 10 seconds has gone from sort of slightly wet bubble to a higher pitched hiss, which means it's beginning to fry. Let's use all our senses here, and I'm just going to chop my parsley nice and fine, stalks and all, with my fingers in the claw.
And I am just dicing my onion, exact same way that Millie did, starting with cutting the top off, and then in half with my nice flat surface, peeling off anything dry.
Right, now it's starting to dry out, and our onion is beginning to brown. Woo! We just had some lamb jump out the pot. Whoop. Okay.
It's calling you.
It's calling me. It's time.
It's trying to escape.
Right. Now it's time for my lamb to come out. That extra minute did its job. So I want to scrape this off as much as I can, but it doesn't matter if you leave it in because we're not going to wash up our pot at this point. We want to keep all this browning in here and use it to help colour our onions. So I'll try and leave a little bit of the fat behind so I can fry my onions in it.
Flavour.
Liquid gold. And at this point, I'm also going to turn it down because it's getting a little bit spitty. It's trying to attack me.
You're right.
No, I was saying it's trying to attack me.
After everything you've done for it?
Woo! Very popping. You've seen popcorn.
I mean, it's going to be delicious, so it is kind of worth it. I'm just dicing my onions, again, as small as I can possibly go. Everything is going to look like mincemeat in the end, and as well, it does add a little bit of speed to your process.
Meat is like, I'd say 80% very, very well browned, which is fine. You don't need to do every single crumble, but get as much of it done as you can. And all we've got left in is just a tiny bit of meat and all that lovely golden brown, what some people call fond. It's just caramelized stuff on the bottom, and lots of fat to fry my onions in, so I'll grab those now.
I'm just giving my mushrooms just a little bit of a toss. In terms of colour, they need a little bit, they feel very soft at the moment, so I'm just going to get them a little bit darker, a little bit crispier, and then we're going to go in with our garlic for literally 10 seconds just to get it fragrant, and then start with our onions.
So with mine, I've got my finely chopped onions in with a good pinch of salt, and you'll see there's lots of this brown stuff on the bottom, so I don't want it to burn. I'm going to add a good splash of water to dissolve it all, and you'll see the water will begin to turn brown as it all goes into my sauce, and this is what's going to give us like a lovely brown rich gravy.
I'm going to attempt to get ahead of the curve and start with the rest of my vegetables. So for your vegetable shepherd's pie, we've got our mushrooms in. The next stage is our garlic, just until fragrant, and then that's going to go in the bowl with our aubergine as well. And then we're going to start with our onions, take them nice and caramel, and then we're going in with our courgette, our celery, and our carrot. So I'm attempting to get ahead of the curve because there's still lots of chopping to be done. With your courgette, just top and tail, just like we did with the aubergine. And again, I'm going to cut it in half to make it a bit more manageable for me. I'm going to cut it down like this, create these little kind of under a centimetre little, they kind of look like flat packs, I guess. And then from there we'll get, these are your planks, is that what you call a plank? And then we go to matchsticks.
Like a plank of wood.
A plank of wood. I like flat pack better.
So I'm going to pop all my garlic, celery and carrots in a bowl together. Just get them out of the way while I chop my parsley and my thyme up. And just from that little bit of scraping, my water's already turned like golden brown. It did take a little while to scrape it off. That's because it was really well stuck to this pan. It's stainless steel, it's a good thing. It means that when it sticks, it's going to form all that caramelization. So that's why, even though it looks like you're about to make a mess of your pan and it's going to be annoying to wash up, you create a lot more flavour.
Yeah, helps you clean and gets that flavour.
Right, I'm going to keep on chopping this till it's a little bit finer. So doing my rock chop, hand on top of the knife. Chop, 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 chop.
And a little soundtrack to go with, that was very nice. Chop, 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 chop.
Motivational
I chew and chop, 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 chop.
Right.
But I am losing control of my courgette.
And then once I finish mine, I'm going to give Maddie a little hand. So it's kind of nice to do both at the same time, see which one you like more. But you may need an extra helper if you are choosing that route.
It is very chopping friendly.
Friendly or heavy?
Both.
Both.
If you like chopping, it's chopping friendly.
It's honestly a really good time to practice your knife skills, doing lots of things at the same time. Different shapes, different sizes, different densities.
Vegetables.
Different veggies, yeah.
We get courgettes today because they're in season. Lovely. They're not always in season, but again, this is a very much choose your own adventure vegetable dish.
You could add lentils or something.
Yeah,
Quite nice.
there's plenty of vegetables that you can use that are readily available, like mushrooms and aubergine, so you don't always have to have courgette. I think carrots and celery are always going to be
around.
Yeah, they're a beautiful flavour and they're always around, particularly in England. So
I do think doing this dish, if you're a vegetarian without aubergine and mushroom, is quite difficult though.
yes,
They do lend like a lot of like really rich meatiness. Things like dried mushrooms as well would be lovely. So just taking it from the top down, pulling off the stem. Let me show you again.
I'm going to have a quick look at your onions. Oh, they're fine.
Oh, they look lovely.
And my mushrooms. So they started to dry out. They've got a good kind of colour. Gosh, this steam is crazy. You can see some of them have got a really nice dark colour, which is what we want. In my opinion, they are ready. They can always take a little bit more. I'm going to finish off my courgette and then I'm going to get my garlic ready and come over and pop it in and then get that out of the bowl as well.
Right. That is
Woo!
Oh my gosh, nearly had a
Oh
knife.
my gosh.
Knife overboard.
You can't donate a knife to the floor
Not
gods.
allowed.
You can donate a
My
potato,
feet
but
like
not a
that.
knife yet.
So just watching this to see, I want to make sure everything is in one single layer on the bottom so it has good contact with my pan. And once it's got really nice and brown, I'm going to put in my garlic, onion, carrot, celery, we got there in the end. Mix, a quick fry, and then we're going to go in with our thyme and our parsley. So that's all my prep done, and now it's time to give my friend Maddie a help.
Aw, very nice, very kind. So I'm going to do my little swap. We've got our mushroom. We've got our garlic, again, only until fragrance. So it's on a nice high heat. It shouldn't take too long at all. So dash that in there, give it a little stir around.
And in the
it
meantime,
shouldn't be taking long at all.
I will start peeling Maddie's carrots and giving them
that's
a
it.
very, very fine chop.
That was a nice 3-second wait for that fragrant garlic. Again, it will cook a little bit longer for later, and we really, really don't want burnt garlic. It's just
disgusting.
it's just a little bit bitter. And at this stage, it's just beautiful and sweet and lovely and fragrant. So now I've got a bowl that has some aubergine, some very well cooked mushrooms, and again, I'm just keeping the colours kind of already there. I'm going to start with the onions out of my Here's Some I Prepared Earlier section.
And it's a good point for Maddie as well. Like I did removing the meat, she can now rub off all of this browning on the bottom of the pot.
Onions, oil, big pinch of salt. The pot is still a little bit hot from our mushrooms just before, hence the sizzle. But I'm going to give that a toss. And in a very, very small amount of time, I am going to give it a dash of water now, just to get that extra little bit of brown off, so that I can attempt to forget about it for just a little while.
And once again, it seems like I'm being fussy chopping these so small, but all the waiting time is in the cooking of the carrots and the celery. So it kind of pays off to spend another minute or two chopping than it does to spend another 15 on the stove. So I think it's really worthwhile, to be honest. Having a little eye on my onions and my a little bit of meat that's left in the pot. It's getting nice and brown, so a dash of water in. Just going to take this a little bit further and then I'll start adding all my veggies.
And is this the last before the herbs? Yes, our last vegetable. I'm doing the same thing with our celery that we've done with everything else, creating little matchsticks, little planks, little buttons, whatever you want to call them, as small as we can possibly go, and just creating tiny, tiny little dice. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And these can all go in with the courgettes.
Yes, thank you. Read my
Here's
mind.
some I prepared earlier, bowl part 3. Not that I'm counting. Okay, so we have courgette, celery and carrots ready to go. The last thing that we want to do is grab our herbs. So we've got some beautiful thyme and parsley. Really great flavors, very aromatic.
Very English.
Very English, very English. All right. That is the bowl for only once our onions are nice and caramelized. Here's some I prepared earlier section.
I think you might need a splash more oil. So oil serves like a couple of important purposes. It helps to brown, but it also carries a lot of flavor. So especially in a vegetarian one, don't be afraid to add a little bit more oil just to make it delicious. I think we can have a look at our potatoes as well in the meantime.
Oh, yeah.
See how they've been getting on.
I'm going to bring one to the front where you are,
Well,
and we can just see what they look like. So they went up to a really vicious boil, actually quite vigorous. And then we've just had them kind of simmering ever since. Like we said, oh, that's good. Okay.
good.
Yeah. They're very soft, that's great. You really don't want to be leaving them potentially a little bit too hard. You want them really easily falling off the knife, which they are. So for us, we're not quite up to the mashing stage yet. We want to get all our ingredients into our pies first. They can happily simmer away until then, but in terms of readiness, they are definitely ready to use. They're super soft. I can actually barely hold them up with the knife. They're slipping off straight away, which is a really good sign. Just make it easier for yourself when you're mashing.
And top tip, if you mash cold potatoes, it is a little bit harder. So it's good not to drain them, let them sit for half an hour before you want to use them, because you will make your life a little bit more difficult in the long run. So I'm just picking off all of Maddie's time for her, because I'm a nice lady. How's it going?
Yours is good. Almost there.
Almost there, yeah. Again, if you don't brown your onions and meat enough, you'll get a very pale looking stew and it won't be quite as delicious.
Okay. They can just both be left for a little bit.
Beauties.
Forgotten about.
Right. You want me to chop it?
Yeah, I do now.
Thyme, they're very small leaves. You don't really need to do anything too crazy, to be honest. That's already done. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're done.
I'm done.
So fast. Okay. Team effort. One team, one dream.
What do you want to do? I'm going to pop that into your bowl.
Into my, here's some I prepared earlier bowl.
Yes.
I feel like a real TV chef.
And earlier we mean 5 seconds ago, right?
Yeah. On screen.
No big blue pizza moments here. Do you have blue pizza in Australia? No? Okay. I'll explain it later.
Thanks. I like that. Millie calls it fluffing your herbs.
Yeah, a little,
Yes, fluff, a little fluff.
a fluff and then a scrunch.
A fluff and a scrunch.
So we are over halfway through day 11 now. So if you have not already, please send us pictures of your beautiful creations. We love to see them.
It doesn't have to be the completed creation. It can be
Mid-chop.
If you manage to go minute for minute with us, prove it. You should send us a photo of you halfway, just chopping, everything looking good or everything looking messy. We love to see it.
Ooh. Right, I am there. My onions are now nice and mahogany, sweet, dark. I just added a big splash of water to get rid of any stuff that is like threatening to burn on the bottom. But they're all looking and smelling very, very sweet.
Okay.
And at this point, it's sort of roughly everything in at once. But I'm going to add my mince back. I'm going to add my carrots, celery, and garlic. Said it right this time. And I'm going to get that garlic frying just quickly until I can smell it. And then in with my parsley and thyme and some water to cover. So I'm going to toss this around. And hopefully we're going to get a lovely dark brown gravy from all of that time spent browning our meat.
All that extra minutes spent caramelizing.
Right, smelling good. I'm going to go with my parsley and my thyme and enough water to cover. It's really important that you have enough water here, otherwise your veggies will not cook. If you had a little chicken stock around or veg stock, you could also use that for a little extra flavour, but if you browned your meat properly, Shouldn't really need it. You're looking good.
Yes. My onions are starting to take a good amount of colour. I'm going to do a little dash of water just to get that onion steam facial. There's nothing quite like it. But also to get that extra colour off the bottom of the pot.
So I'm going to add enough water to cover. So now it's fully covered with maybe like centimetre or so just above the layer of all my veggies and stuff, just so it can move at a nice fast bubble. And we'll season it at the end. So I'm not going to salt it now, it will reduce down further, and if I salt it too heavily now, it's just going to be salt city. Right. So I'm going to give my potatoes one last check, and then I'm going to drain them over here just so you can see what I'm doing, and we'll do some mashing. Does that sound good?
Yes. And we've made it easy for ourselves in cooking our potatoes really, really nice and soft. Beautiful.
Right, so my potatoes over here, I've been simmering away. So as Maddie was saying, woo, you can see it doesn't even survive me lifting it up. It is looking very, 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 very soft.
So we're just going to leave that for a tick. We can both mash ours at the same time. We're going to get this veg bolognese finished. So hopefully, if you've been chopping like crazy, like Mill and myself, you should be at the stage where your onions are 2 seconds from being completely caramelized. 2 seconds, more like 1 and a bit minutes. But you've got a few bowls. You've got a bowl with your aubergine and your mushrooms and your garlic. You've got your courgette, your celery, and your carrot. And you've got your herbs. We've also got a stock cube. You could be using stock powder. After the onions are done, it is pretty much all in from there. We're going to start with the celery, carrot, and courgette just for 2 seconds, and then it's all in from there, and do the exact same that Mill's done. That stock, that water, just to cover. So in terms of our colour,
you're looking good.
Almost
mine looks
there.
like soup, but at least it's brown soup, so we're on the right track.
Brown soup, yep.
Not pale soup.
Not pale soup,
Right.
not grey soup.
Not grey soup.
Shall we? All right. Our onions are looking. Could they take a little bit longer? Yes, but we're going to bully them a little bit.
Yeah.
They've got a
I
nice
think they look
caramel
good.
colour.
And these are, you took the time to really
and
brown these, so I think between the two will make up the difference.
So we are going in with our celery, carrots, courgette. I'm just going to give them a toss about. Soften them just slightly, get that extra brown or from the onions all the way around, and then everything in.
There you go, my friend.
And because you've cut them so small, it's going to take a very small amount of time to cook. And we've got a lot of flavour from our aubergine and our mushroom all in.
And with Maddie's stock cube, I'm just going to crumble it up before it goes in, just give it a chance to dissolve. But you can of course just use stock powder, that's also very, very easy to get
Stock powder, all in.
All in.
And then we're going to make another brown soup. Or green soup maybe, with all that herbs. This is one of those things that you can, we're going to do quickly, so we're going to keep it on a nice high heat. But you can always put it low and slow and just let it soften over time.
Yeah, yours is very colourful.
It is very colourful, looks like a rainbow. Lovely. And then we forget about it. Bring it up to the boil, and then we can put it down to simmer and forget about it.
Just make sure you push everything down from the edges, otherwise you get a cute couple
You've got a happy
crunchy
boil
bits.
on yours.
Should we swap over?
Yeah.
Actually, you've got a big burner. It
I've
might
got
be
a
all
big
right.
burner. Yeah.
So if you're in a hurry, fast boil is great, but if not, you can just bring it up to a boil and then turn it down to a simmer. So I'm going to drain my potatoes now. Maddie's grabbing hers. So I've just got it in a colander, and I'm going to return it to this pot that is now nice and dry. If there's lots and lots of water in here, you're going to get a watery mash that doesn't taste very delicious and rich. So take that time to drain it quite well.
And if you've taken it super soft, it should take a very small amount of
So
time.
I've got a masher. I'm just going to make sure it is well mashed, no big lumps.
If your oven takes a while to heat up, it can go on really, really quite high, to be honest. So the mashed potato is cooked. Our filling will also be cooked. So all we're really doing is getting that nice golden crisp top. So for us, I'm going to pop it on now. It takes 5-10 minutes until nice and hot. Or when I say Millie's going to pop it on. And I'm going to mash my potatoes. But yeah, if it does take a while, definitely pop it on now. It really only needs to get that nice golden color on top and kind of draw out a little bit of moisture from your filling as well. Oh, this is great. Very easy. These potatoes were super, super soft. So this is taking a very quick job.
And now, very important, butter. You could use, well, we're also maybe going to use a little bit of milk, depending on how thick it is. If you've got very, very dry potatoes that are quite starchy, you may need a little extra milk to thin it out.
This should be quite smooth by the time we're done with it. Beautiful. This is going to be delicious.
And I think one thing that most home cooks do is not to season their mash well enough. And potatoes, again, they're quite bland.
Yes.
They need a good bit of salt, some nice fat to make it taste delicious. I've done lovely olive oil mash before, also tastes quite nice. But traditionally, a little bit of butter, milk or cream, just any sort of nice dairy product to keep it lovely and rich. So
I'm just giving both of our mixes a little toss, just to get that green inside.
So I'm just mixing it up to melt my butter. You could of course do it in small cubes if you remember. Maddie can break hers up before she puts
Am I going to put it in small cubes? It's fine. All in. It's hot enough, it'll melt it.
And it's looking nice and smooth, but definitely quite thick. I mean, you need it a little bit thick because traditionally a shepherd's pie has like little fork lines through it.
So it shouldn't be potato soup. It still needs to be thick enough that we can run the fork through it, but not so thick. Imagine the softness of the filling. If you're trying to spread really hard mashed potato over the top, you kind of just end up pushing it into your filling, and it's not very fun.
So we're going to add a little bit of milk to ours. You can add cream as well if you want to.
Also going to add a good pinch of salt, just to kind of bring up the butter. It'll be quite fatty from the butter, but the salt will help out to bring out that flavour of the potatoes.
So just to start, a couple of tablespoons. You can always add more. Again, you don't want it to be super sloppy. Maybe a tiny bit more. And
always a little bit more.
With your shepherd's pie, everything is going into the oven fully cooked. You're really just cooking for browning and for colour.
So you want the flavour to be really bang on. It's not going to get too much flavour. So in terms of consistency, Nils is getting close. Mine is still really firm.
And I'm just going to add maybe the tiniest bit more just to loosen it. So in total, I maybe added 100 ml of milk, but it really depends on your potatoes, how much water they absorb. Let's see. Right. So still pretty thick actually.
You want some more?
Maybe a touch more. Yeah.
I just did a big slug.
And again, anything with starch in will thicken up on standing and cooling, so this will get even thicker just as it sits. It's going to keep on absorbing that water.
Keep that
water.
milk.
Thank you. And we're using whole milk, just got much better flavour, a little bit richer. Right.
I'm going to add a little bit more.
Better to do it a bit at a time than go a bit crazy. And I'm also adding milk at this stage before adding any salt, because I want the consistency to be right before I go crazy with the salt, and then I'm diluting it and I season 100 times. Okay, we're getting there now. It's looking creamy and smooth.
Mm-hmm. And mine is not too far off either. I went just a really big amount of milk on the first go in an attempt to catch up to you.
Okay, I think we are good. So it's sort of a smooth, spoonable consistency. I can spread it very, very evenly. So I'm going to pop this to the side.
I'm happy with mine. Let's have a look at these bolognese.
Bolognese?
Bolognese. Shepherd's pie mix.
English bolognese.
English bolognese.
Don't let them hear us.
Mine's pretty smooth as well, so I'm actually quite happy with that.
So because I added so much water, it means I was literally able to forget about it. I'm not even worried about it sticking and burning. Still like kind of on the liquidy side, which is fine. It needs a bit of time to thicken up a touch. How's yours going? Yours is looking super brown and beautiful.
The same, yeah. It is kind of looking very colourful as well from those carrots. But again, same as yours, it's got plenty of liquid, and we do kind of want it to dry. It will dry out a little bit in the oven, but it does need to be quite dry before we put our potatoes on top. Yours
All
looks
those
really
pieces
pretty.
of lamb that went in and they were so brown, they've lost a lot of their colour now because it's dissolved into the pot. So that's why I said go darker than you think. If you need to get this in the oven, you've got someone who's starving, you can turn up the heat now and
Just like we're doing.
reduce
like
your sauce a little bit.
Get rid of that liquid. I'm keeping it. Oh yeah, this one. Bigger. Bigger is better.
So yeah, we've got ours on full blast pretty much.
Yeah.
Just trying to
And
boil off
that's-
that water. But mine's not a million miles away. I'm going to have a
Yeah.
little taste
Pre-taste.
of my carrots and my celery, because that is the one thing that's going to take the longest to cook out of everything in my pot. And I think it's probably going to need a little minute anyway. Crunchy.
Crunchy? All right. I'm going to taste my mash just quickly so that we can kind of finish it off.
Oh, seasoning. Sorry, I forgot about that.
I know. You want boring mashed potato on top of your
I
shepherd's
love
pie.
mash as well.
Yeah, it tastes like potato and milk at the moment. So
We
we're
didn't
gonna
add
put
any salt to our pot, so I'm not even going to try it before I add one big pinch. Anything with a lot of fat in as well, just be mindful that you'll need to add a little bit more salt than you think, because fat kind of cancels out saltiness.
Yeah.
Likewise, if you make a dish,
that is
really,
if you do
really
accidentally
salty.
make something super salty.
splash of cream or something will help to balance that out. But you need to dissolve it really well before you go, because otherwise you'll end up with a pocket of salt and think your whole dish is very, very seasoned when maybe it's quite bland.
Mine is quite close. That good dash of salt has taken it to at least a place where it starts to taste good. Like it's
Yeah, me
tasting
too, actually. Still
tasty.
need a little
I'm
bit
going
more,
to go
though.
just one more, kind of a little, like a small pinch, just to finish it off. And I'm going to say that is definitely it. That's going to finish it off.
More like a medium pinch on mine. So when we're seasoning, we're looking to taste everything that's in there. So I want to taste the butter, I want to taste the potatoes. And if any of those things are bland or flat, usually needs one more pinch of salt. And I never want things to taste salty. I think that's something that people always get scared
Salt
of.
isn't just salt. It is a flavor enhancer of everything else that's in there as well. It's not just going to make things taste like salt.
And we always go into our hands, because especially if you're using a salt pourer like this, maybe you just shoot a ton of salt into your food. So I always put it into my hand, because it's kind of hard to tell how much salt's in your, especially going from a white thing into a white pot.
Yeah.
Very hard to see how much you've added. So just from a tactile point of view, you can see exactly what went in there, you can feel it. It's good, good start.
Also, just in case you accidentally pour out a ton, which I think is really common with these shakers, we've got like a big hole and then a light shaker, so you can accidentally mix them up and put in,
So
3
much, yeah.
teaspoons of salt when it's supposed to be a half pinch. So always best to go into the hand just to see how much.
And now we're getting a nice sauna. steam room.
Sauna, yeah.
A real
Even just in
experience.
those 2 minutes we were away, I've lost a
reduce that
lot of water on from mine.
My one started with a good centimetre of water on top of my veg, and now my veg are all poking through, which is great. I'm just going to give mine one last season. If you love nutmeg, you can do a little bit in here. Or black pepper, white pepper, also nice.
Anything you like. And we can always, mine's quite sloppy actually, oh not sloppy, it's got
Mine's good
a good schlop to it, which I'm pretty happy with.
The official
'Cause you-
terminology,
Schlop. That is official terminology. I use it all the time, therefore it is official. So for us, our mash is ready to go. We might play with the consistency a little bit later on, but we're almost ready to taste
Yep.
and season our dish.
So over here, I've got a deep roasting tin. So we're going to do one single layer of our shepherd's pie mix, and then we're going to top it with our mash, do our fork lines, and pop it in a nice hot oven to get that lovely golden brown top. But you need something that is not so small it's going to overflow, not something that's too big where it's just going to be like a flat pancake with a weird, very thin layer of potato. So it should be well proportioned. And this again scales up or down very, very well, especially with the veggie one. If you only have one of each one, you can just chop one carrot, one celery, it'll be good.
This is going to be very, very, very hot, I'm pretty sure.
I think so too.
Ooh, it is good. In terms of flavour, I think my stock cube has carried mine a very, very long way.
I don't have a stock cube, so
Yes, you don't have the stock cube. So
I have got me.
if you're like us and your stock cube is quite salty or stock powder is quite salty, I don't think mine needs any. I still have to reduce a little bit of the water, which can potentially make it a little bit saltier. So I'm actually going to leave mine for now. I'm pretty happy with it. I've got my nice creamy mash. I'm just going to reduce off. I can see it's got like quite a bit of liquid left. So I'm going to try and get the majority of that. Don't be too worried between the two. I know it looks a bit soupy at the moment, but it is currently super, super hot. So even though it looks very liquid, that will actually thicken and kind of absorb into the vegetables as well. So I'm going to try and get a little bit off, but I'm happy with it to be a little bit watery.
To be honest, when you go like this, Maddie can draw a line through her pot. So it's a good sign it's not a million miles away.
It is a stew.
Same with mine. I've got lots of like pitting or bubbles where the water is evaporating off very quickly. All of the meat is sort of floating on top of the surface now. It's boiled off so much water. I actually think I am like a minute or two off. At this point, we're going to steam our peas, so we're going to have them ready to go. So if you have a kettle, put it on to boil. If you're going to put a pot on to boil, now is time to do it. And then we're going to cook them in some boiling water with a little bit of salt, make some lovely, maybe some buttery peas.
Maybe some buttery peas if we're
butter.
lucky.
So turn up your heat if you haven't already, just to reduce your sauce even further. But
I think
I'm happy with mine.
Yeah, I'm happy with mine as well, to be honest.
So I've got that sort of drag
with the
through
flavour.
saucy texture. And yeah, as Mandy's saying, it's going to reduce further in the oven. So we're going to start to assemble our final products because we've got everything ready to go. And as we said, it's all cooked. It just needs to get colour in the oven.
And our oven has just hit temperature as well, which is even better. Perfect timing.
Perfect. So all in, nice and simple compared to lasagna, for example, that we're going to do later on in the session.
Just be wary of the bottom of your pot if you're very commonly touching your elbows like me. Beautiful.
So I'm going to spread it out. Oh, I think this is a good size. What about you?
Good size. If you can't see, we've got steam everywhere.
We got a little
don't want to go too small on your dish. If your pie mix is up to the top, you're going to have a lot of problems with your potato. So if you're worried, a little bit bigger is a little bit better, just because you want to keep all your liquid inside and you don't want to push your potato down and have your stew go over the top and overflow. So a little bit more space is going to help you out here.
And what I'm going to do is small dollops, evenly spaced, and then I will spread it out. So don't just put one bit in the center like you're icing a cake and spread it out. It will basically just push everything up the sides. So a couple of little spoons along the way, and then I'll spread it out with, I'm using a palette knife. You could use the back of a wooden spoon or something would also be fine, even a knife.
Metal spoon, anything you got.
So traditionally this is straight fork lines, but you could do a little wavy pattern or something. But I'll do mine traditional, so you know which one is the meat one. And Maddie is going to choose her own adventure, whatever pattern.
Wavy fork pattern,
Right.
Just to show that it's a vegetarian one.
I was thinking a baklava sort of diagonal would be quite nice.
Ooh, okay. We'll see. We'll see what mood strikes.
Not trying to put patterns in your mouth.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm doubting my waves.
But yes, mine is going to be straight, so I know which one's which. So waste not, want not. Get every bit out.
Get everything out. And again, so you want, if your mash is really hard at this stage, it's just this next stage is quite tricky to do because you kind of just end up sinking your mashed potato into your dish. So it's nice if it's really smooth and loose. That's why we added all that milk.
The other thing I sometimes like to do is kind of spread it up the sides a little bit. It'll kind of cap your sauce inside your dish and stop
Trap
it from
it inside.
exactly,
Stop
stop
it
it
from
from
boiling
trying to
over.
go up. So I'm going to just scoop it up the sides, and then I'm going to spread it out much more evenly. So I've not got any bald patches in my thing.
If you don't have a spatula at home, one of these spoons, just a big serving spoon, is absolutely perfect.
And this is where you can spend hours and hours smoothing it out.
Yes.
But I'm just going to get it
Just like a
little
cake.
smooth because I'm just about to do my fork lines for you. And then we're going to pop ours in the oven for a quick bake. So just using my
Caramelization
fork,
of our potato on top.
I'm going to do the traditional one for my shepherd's pie. So nice straight lines.
My mix is quite wet, which I'm
Do that
I'm
big
not
slosh of
horribly.
milk.
No, my shepherd's
your-
pie mix. I'm not unhappy about it, but I'm not going to push really hard down because again, it will just come up and over the side. So I'm going to attempt to get to the very edges, kind of like meal, but because of all the water from the veggies, it's nowhere near as fatty or as thick. Not a bad thing.
Right, so that's mine done. Hopefully I shouldn't get any sort of seepage up and around the sides.
Beautiful.
She's beautiful.
I've got a little bit. I'm gonna have a little bit of seepage. Yeah, I think so.
Looking good.
Oh, so beautiful.
I'll definitely know whose is whose. So
well, we
I'm gonna
know
pop
whose
mine,
the veggies is now.
pop both of them in the oven.
Nice and hot. Everything's already cooked. So we're just looking for all
The
these
golden.
lines, the fork lines, are just going to be like lines of golden brown, which is very traditional and very beautiful.
Nice hot oven, making my eyes water a little bit.
For peas. And
Right.
now, whatever veggie you have. We've got peas for tonight.
Honestly,
This is
I
just
think
a-
the best thing to have in your freezer is peas. I
Peas.
love them. They're sweet. They're like very quick to cook. And I think everyone loves them, to be honest, because of those reasons. So
Yeah.
good thing to have if you just want to add an extra green. So I've got my pot of water. I'm going to bring it up to a boil. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to season it from the inside out and a sieve. And then we're just going to add a little butter and serve up.
Butter peas. Ooh. So,
Smoky.
yeah, it's very smoky in here. So these concepts that we've covered today for our shepherd's pie, they're really similar to a lot of the other things that we've done. So just stewing stewing in a little bit of water, but also we've got the caramelization of the onions, we've got the garlic in, and just until it's fragrant, we're caramelizing our vegetables until they release their water. All these things are the same across quite a few things that we have done already in the bolognese, and we will do again in the future for our lasagna, for example. And these things, the browning of the meat, that can be across all meats. It doesn't just have to be your mince or anything like that.
So with our green veg, tonight it's going to be peas. We're going to start this from boiling water. So kind of the opposite principle to what we were doing earlier with potatoes. So potatoes and any other root veg you might be cooking are really, really dense. So they just require a little more time and a slightly slower start to get them to the end where you haven't got a overcooked outside and the crunch
I was
in the
going to
middle.
say, I always imagine
Like a
for
core.
a potato, if you put it into really hot boiling water, it cooks the outside, but
Yeah.
the center is still really like hard and dense because it hasn't been penetrated. Whereas if you start from cold, they come up together to heat.
Perfect. So with green peas though, it's very, very small, very, very like light and fresh and green. So we're just going to put this straight into our boiling water once it comes up to the boil for like a minute maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't need
You
much
don't even
at
need to
all.
defrost peas, to be honest. You can cook them from frozen. Nice and fast way of having some green veg on your table. And to be honest, I actually think frozen peas are the best. They're picked when they're fresh and they're like the sweetest and the least starchy compared to like picked garden peas and
So in
things.
terms of timing, for most things, we'll say 2 to 3 minutes for your peas. Anything bigger, like green beans, broccoli,
5 to 7.
5.
Usually
I like
those
crunchy
things
broccoli,
will
so I'm 5 or
smell-
6, but a little bit more. Our water is getting there, it's steamy.
So just hold off on adding salt to your water if it hasn't quite come up to the boil, just because it'll take a little bit longer. Just going to give it another 30 seconds or so, just because if you haven't brought it up to the boil, it'll take a little bit longer on the other side. And then I'm going to grab us some plates, because hopefully we won't be
up.
too far off dishing up.
We're waiting for a good bit of caramelization on the top of our shepherd's pie. We've got our oven on, I will say, exceptionally hot. It is on 240 with a grill top. For you at home, a high oven, just to get that brown line is enough, but it will take more like 15 to 20 minutes.
So I'm adding a little bit of salt to my peas. Even if it looks like a lot, it's only going to be in there for about a minute. So you can really go like fairly salty. So let's give it a minute or two. You need to definitely to come back up to the boil before you get started. Then I'm going to drain it into this bowl and we'll have some lovely green peas.
And we're going to be all veggied up. I've got so many veggies in my veggie shepherd's pie. Got veggies here.
So if you want to stretch your meats, adding lots of veggies is a nice way to bulk
Easy.
it out a little bit to feed a couple more people. But yeah, you've just joined us for another night of Cook for Victory. Once again, please send your all your creations to our Instagram at Cookery School London, hashtag Cook for Victory. We'd love to see them always.
Let us know how you're doing as well. If you love it, if you love a particular recipe, if you hate a particular recipe, we'll also take that feedback on. We love them all, so we're happy with that. But We're going to take a quick look at what we've got in the oven. Like I said, it would take a little bit more time for that golden, those crisp lines, but everything is cooked, so it's edible. It's going to be delicious.
It's on its way.
That's not bad.
I got a little bit of browning. It just needs a tiny bit longer. The butter helps colour it and also make it a little bit brown, a bit faster.
Crispy. And those peas are good to go. Did we decide are we doing butter peas?
Butter.
Yes. Beautiful.
There you go, madam.
The best type of peas. We've got a little bit of salt and we're going to do a tiny, tiny bit of butter just to make them more
Glossy.
delicious than they already are.
So just a teaspoon honestly would make a big difference, or even some olive oil.
Olive oil, pinch of salt.
So I'm sure your shepherd's pies won't be much ahead of ours. So turn your oven up if you want to get them out of the oven a little bit quicker, but they should come out looking really golden brown and bubbly. Not worth doing all that effort to take them out of the oven too soon.
No rush. And this is one of those things really similar to like the bolognese and lasagna. It's good tonight, it's great tomorrow.
Oh, so good. So yeah, make extra, freeze it. You can make mash quite quickly. Mash also freezes really well.
Yep.
So you can batch cook these things all at once, save yourself a little bit of time in the long term. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us for another night.
This is night 11 out of 20, so we've got 9 more to go.
And tomorrow we are doing meatballs, also a lovely, once again, a veggie version with some tomato sauce, so another recap. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing tonight.
Another delicious night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much for joining us
See you
again.
next
Bye-bye.
time.